Hey everybody, welcome to a very special and very early episode of After Impact. I'm your host, Tom Bilyeu, and I am here with the amazing Agent Smith.
Mr.
Wow, you got some love this morning,
this is nice.
my man.
Mr. Bilyeu.
What is up, dude?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I am literally shocked at how not tired I am.
I'm impressed. You're
Thank
really
you.
hanging in there.
Thank you, man.
I mean, it's badass that you can just do this nonstop.
I appreciate
What
that.
hour are we in? 20?
20, I think, yeah.
20th hour.
Oh wow, so we're about to hit 21 hours in. So we're in
impressive.
championship rounds now.
That's really. I went home and went to sleep. So
Rightly so.
I rested up. I tried to come here so I can bring some energy to After Impact.
My man.
Love
I like
seeing
it.
the team. Everyone's here.
Dude.
I mean, they're hanging in there. I can tell people are tired, but they're still doing it. So.
This is amazing. And there's something magical that happens. It's dark. People are tired, but they've come together as a team. Everybody's pulled their weight. Everybody's killed it. Had a good time. So there's like I don't know, like these are those like college bonding moments that we've managed to recreate. So this is really, really neat. It's been an awesome experience.
Sunrise together. So
we are.
That will be new and special as
yes.
well. Actually, I think we did it on the launch day too, but it was a smaller team.
It's a very, very true statement.
After Impact, thank you for joining us. This is the show where Tom and I go deep into the episode of Impact Theory. This week's episode was with Eric Barker, the author, best-selling author of Barking Up the Wrong Tree, The Surprising Science Behind Why Everything You Know About Success is Mostly Wrong. And that title really captured your attention on Amazon, so you had to read it.
Yes, it did.
Halfway through the book, you told Christopher, we have to have this guy on the show.
Yeah.
And before you'd finished reading, he was booked.
Yeah, which, by the way, mad love to Christopher on that one. That kid does not play around.
Nope.
So, yeah, this was one of those books that it was like an Audible recommends, if you like that, you may also like this, which is one of the ways that I actually find a lot of the books is I'll start with one and then just like follow that trail, add them to my wish list or whatever. And yeah, that title just really grabbed me. And here's why I like it. So I don't want to read things that just confirm my belief system, right? So I'm a big believer that your skill set, your belief system, it's taking you as far as it's going to take you already. And so you've got to like make changes, you've got to push, you've got to be looking for fresh ideas, new ways to think about something. And so when I see things like that, everything you know about success is mostly wrong. Well, shit, I'm a guy out there talking about success all day. So if this guy can really give me a fresh insight, supercharge me, supercharge the ideas, then I'm all for it. And like you said, halfway through the book, I was just like, Jesus, like insight after insight after insight. And already in this 24-hour, I've quoted the book like 3 times. I mean, it's one of those that he really has some super usable insights.
He does indeed. And so if people don't know who Eric Barker is, he's the author of that book, Barking Up the Wrong Tree, which is also the name of his blog, which he's been doing for several years. I think he's written thousands of articles. He has 300,000 subscribers to his blog, and it gets syndicated to Time Magazine, some of the biggest publications, Business Insider. He's written for the New York Times. He's written for Wired. So he's very well known and well respected. So I agree with you that it seems like he's just churning out amazing insights, and that's what the episode felt like. It was insight after insight that was not only sort of paradigm shifting, but also actionable.
Right.
And so it was one of those episodes, and there's been a few, I think Jay Salmon is another one, where I'm preparing for After Impact, and I'm like, there's nothing to do here. It's like, all you need to do is listen to the episode and then apply those to your life, and it will be better.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
We can't stop there. We have to go deeper.
We got to go deeper, baby.
This is After
Got to
Impact.
earn it.
We got to unpack the impact of this episode. So I want to start with...
We've got to unpack the impact.
Unpacking.
Huh? That's a hashtag right there. That's what happens if you go home and sleep, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
You come up with these nuggets of gold.
That's right.
My man.
So in the beginning of the episode, he says one of the most dangerous things and the most dangerous to your health is feeling powerless in your job. So I want to ask you, have you ever had moments of feeling powerless in your career? That's my first question. Then I have a follow-up.
Yeah, so very much so. And this is one of those insights that this company is structured around. So the reason that I believe in doing a unlimited vacation policy is because I want you guys to be able to decide when you take the time off. And I want people to know I'm not asking for permission to take the time off. I'm communicating so that we can coordinate, right? And I really want people to feel that. And when there's peer pressure among everybody, like to make sure that we're all upholding our end of the bargain, then like you don't have to worry, right? And some people are going to take the piss every now and then, whatever. Sure. But if like each of us are like holding each other accountable, then amazing things are going to happen. But I know that one of the 5 primary motivators that people have is autonomy. Like you really need to feel like there's a certain level of control over your own life that you have. And I mean, this is before this insight, which then was even more terrifying to realize literally it makes you more likely to die, which is crazy. But when I read it, I thought, I get that. Like that feeling sucks to a degree that is hard to really explain. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think A, yes, I have felt that. B, I think it is so critical for executives and companies to create an environment where people don't feel like that. And especially when you have the luxury of being small, there's just no excuse for it.
Yeah, and what do you think the best way to do that is to empower people who are feeling that way?
One, to empower somebody who already feels powerless.
Yeah.
Whoa, now you're asking hard fucking questions. All right, so my nightmare scenario is you have to undo something. So honestly, like you want to try to not get in that position. But the good news is that I have experience on what not to do. So here's what not to do. To try to lay blanket policies that actively give people freedom. Because when they feel disempowered, giving them freedom does not empower them. So they already believe that there's a problem with the system. So giving them that power just makes them go, well, this is another dumb attempt. And there's no like buy-in. It isn't something that can just be like bolted on to the situation. Yeah. And like people don't know what to do with it. Yeah. So if they have felt disempowered, micromanaged, or feel that there's like a, I'm going to get in trouble for something, and then you give them freedom, they're just like waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Yeah. So that was a sad experiment that I ran at Quest, where it was like, unfortunately, in all of the transitions and all of the rapid growth, there were certainly pockets where it just hadn't clicked. They didn't feel that freedom. They didn't have the sense of autonomy. And so I tried this experiment. Second time this has come up today. I tried the experiment of 20% time like they do at Google. So Fridays, it's yours. Make sure it's a project that can obviously be advantageous to the company, but like whatever you're feeling, that secret project that you were never able to get somebody to approve. But then it's like, well, how do you hold them accountable? Because you have to hold them accountable. There has to be metrics and things. So then it was like, well, you're telling me I can do whatever I want, but you're still holding me accountable, because we didn't have that baked in peer pressure of like everybody already feels the autonomy, everybody feels the buy-in and all of that stuff. So now they really want to make sure that we're doing something together as a team. And so trying to bolt that on just wasn't effective.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super. And I love the idea of 20% time in theory, because I've read about it in other books. And I so want it to work in practice. But maybe in another context.
That is certainly the hope. So really, I think the answer is start from scratch, right? You've got to be able to give people that autonomy right from the jump. And if you're giving them that autonomy, if the company's structured around that, if the company culture echoes that, then it really does get baked in. Then the only thing, at least at that point, that you're fighting against is where did they come from before that, right? Did they come from a place where they've ever experienced that before? Do they know what to do with it? And are you able to get through the growth phase where they're adapting to that? They're really sort of flexing their muscles, where at first, like, they're so not used to that you see the old behaviors, the asking for permission instead of just the coordination. And then will they respond by really busting ass and getting their work done? And that's the hard, like as the leadership, that's the hard part. What if they're not busting their ass? What if they really don't know what to do? Like they've finally been given that freedom, but they don't know how to manage it. Yeah. So, and how do you hold them accountable without making them feel like, oh, this was all just for show? And that's really tricky. And that's why I think it has to be a group event. Because if it's coming from me, if I'm like, you're not living up to your standards, people are like, well, fuck. of course, the boss coming in
Yeah.
and saying shit like that. But when everybody is saying, like, wait a second, we have profit participation, we have ownership, like, fucking come on, like, and not that, like, I wouldn't want it to be like that. It would, how can I help you? Like, how do we get this done? And like everybody else is crushing it so much that you just feel like you feel that pressure.
Yeah.
People are sensitive, they know.
Yeah, definitely. Despite there being so many amazing studies and insights that Eric Barker brings up in this episode, there was one that I just couldn't quite wrap my head around, and I wanted to talk to you about it, and that is his idea of givers, takers, and matchers. Now, in theory, I think that makes total sense, but applying the tit-for-tat scenario to everything,
Right.
I think may not work. And so I know there was a scenario here we experienced in our company where we had a moment where we could have gone down the tit-for-tat path, and it sounded like a good idea, but it just felt like in practice, it just was like, this is not the time to do
Right.
it. And so instead of applying that, I sort of just stayed back, waited to see what happened. Like, people were taking, right? They were taking from us, and I let them take some more. And it over time blossomed into what we think is going to be a very good relationship,
Right.
trusting. And so we found compromise. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Do you think that works in every context?
I don't think anything works all the time, and I know exactly what you're talking about. And I was fully prepared to employ a tit-for-tat strategy on that one. And I think that what you need to do is understand what's the level of injustice I'm willing to take before you walk into that negotiation. Sure. And my thing was, they'd really taken the piss. And you and I had different levels of injustice that we were prepared to deal with. And they had reached my threshold of like, dude, we tried. You've got to admit, like, we fucking gave them rope.
Yeah.
This was not like, oh, it was some like little thing. Like, they kept doing it, making promises, breaking promises. And so I'm super glad that we went with your vibe and your read, because I really do think now that it's going to pay out, and it wouldn't have if we had slapped the wrist at that point. And so that's where, like, having a team of really sharp people that have fine-tuned their intuition and knowing when to listen, right?
Yeah.
So there's going to be times where you just have to deal with a little more injustice, right?
Yeah.
And then you're able to get something out of it. And so you were thinking long-term. I think that's always the right answer. Like, what could this become? You had a good read on it. You trusted your gut, and you went with it. At the same time, if you're always doing that, you're always giving in, then I really do think you become the nice guy that finishes last. And that is very much speaking from experience.
Yeah. And I think, too, that one of the benefits of real world scenarios is that you can communicate. And in this computer simulation, it was just sort of action and reaction.
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing, is like, you can talk things through, you can negotiate, you can find compromises, find common ground. Do you think our team is made up? What is the makeup in terms of givers, takers, matchers on our team?
Let's really think about that.
I kind of have a sense of what our team is made up of, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Our team is...
And we should probably define what those are, too, for people who haven't seen the episode.
All right. So a giver is somebody that, think of a mom. Somebody that just gives and gives and gives, really without thinking about what their needs are and making sure that their needs are met. A matcher is somebody that goes, okay, like, roughly, like, this is fair. You've given this much. I'm going to give that much. We're going to kind of balance out. Like, I like fairness and justice and all of that. And a taker is somebody who takes what they can fucking get.
Yeah.
And if they come across a giver, thank you. And they just take.
Yeah.
Usually it's not sort of as overt and gross as that. They're unfortunately more subtle than that. So you can't necessarily see them coming a mile off. But that's to really make it binary.
And I think we've all encountered people like that in the workplace.
No question. I'll say that we're 70% matchers, 30% givers.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a single fucking taker. Like, a taker here would get eaten alive.
Yeah.
Like, you've walked into the wrong company, my friend.
I think that's right on. That's how I was thinking about it as well. There are no takers, just givers and matchers. And I think a lot of people are very much in tune with what's right, what's just. Like, let's help each other out. I think that's a big part of our team. So. All right. One of the things that Eric Barker talks about is he talks a lot about self-narrative. And this I found really surprising. So everyone talks about self-narrative in this space and how important it is and how important it is to have a positive self-narrative. But the stat that he cited about the Navy implementing this into their training for Bud School and that they had an 80% increase in...
Was it that high? I don't think it was that high.
I thought he said 80%.
Oh,
Did
God,
someone
if I remember
fact-check that
right.
on the
Yeah,
episode?
it was either 12 or 22, I think.
Oh,
it was
so much
significant
lower. Maybe he
without
said
being...
18.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. It wasn't like a crazy number.
Okay.
I remember thinking significant,
But still, that's impressive. And I've never heard data put behind it. So that just astounded me. He talks about how you need to start changing your narrative in order to start changing behavior. But then there's also the theory of changing your behavior to change your narrative. So do you change your narrative first, your behavior first, or both?
I really, really believe that identity drives behavior. So you can back into it from changing your behavior, but I think that is way more difficult. So definitively, if somebody were asking my advice, I would say start with narrative. Start with the story you tell yourself about yourself. That's easier to change, first of all, and then it will echo in your desire to be consistent. It will echo through your behavior.
Okay, nice.
Are we taking, in the spirit of the 24 hours, we doing live questions? What do you think?
Yeah.
Break our
We
normal
should-
format? Let's do it.
We usually do on After Impact anyway. So.
Yeah, I guess because I'm not normally the one reading them, it feels so
Yeah.
foreign. So
Are
in
they gonna
fact,
come up on this screen?
yeah,
Is this one?
that's the one.
All right. Corey Reed wants to know, how do you shape and define your core beliefs?
Wow, talk about right on the money with what we were just talking
Yep.
about. So really identifying what you like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to get to? What kind of person do you want to be? What are the qualities and characteristics that make that up? So like with things like, do you want to be a matcher, a taker, or a giver? And then when you identify like what is that value system that you want to build? Do you want to be a protector of people? Do you want to be somebody who creates other leaders? Like all those things that, and it is a very big universe of menu items to pull from, and I think people pull them over time. So my core belief system, the 25 bullet points, was really about being effective. So if I know that at a high level, like what I want is to set a goal and to be effective at achieving that goal, what do I have to do to my mind in order to be able to do that? So that was where I started. That was like my absolute highest value was efficiency. Like I want to be efficient at getting to these goals. Now that I have to be careful about what I set a goal on, because if I set an ugly goal, I'm going to be deadly efficient in getting to that ugly goal.
Right.
And I lost years of my life doing that, right? So using the same process, because much of the belief system has been in place far longer than the switch from chasing money to putting a mission at the core, something of adding value and all of that. So let's say half or even 2/3 of that belief system was the same. And in fact, I learned it while grinding for money. So you have to be very careful about what your top line goal is. But that decision to be efficient at executing against a goal was a choice, right? That was my decision. Now, because what I believe is the meaning of life, like once you understand my definition of the meaning of life, you understand why my belief system is what my belief system is. So I believe the meaning of life is to acquire as many skills as you can that have utility, put that utility to service, put that utility to use in the service of something bigger than you. So that's that notion of being of service, doing something bigger, but really like seeing how much you can wring, how much of your potential you can wring out of yourself, is why the 25 bullet points are what they are. They're around mindset. They're around expanding your belief system, around acquiring skill set, around not limiting yourself. But if somebody chose something different at the top level, then I think their knock-on belief system would be different.
Got it. That's great. Just a reminder, this is After Impact. We are discussing Eric Barker, the latest episode of Impact Theory. This is the show where Tom and I go deep into the episode of Impact Theory. unpack it in all its glory.
Unpack that impact.
Unpack the impact. Speaking of glory, he has a really interesting notion about leaders and narcissists versus junkies. And I just want to go into it because I think it's fascinating. So he said that narcissists make great leaders initially, but a long time over the long haul, if the company's not doing well, they don't make great leaders because one of the things he says is that they're usually in it for the glory. Whereas you want someone who's a junkie, that's the term he uses, which is essentially someone, the way I think he's thinking about it, who is just obsessive about their craft, about what they're trying to build. And they just do that, and that's where they find fulfillment, and they'll pursue it until the end.
I loved his, God, what did he say? If you want a successful entrepreneur, find a junkie.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, what? But that actually really makes sense, right? So all the same obsessive thoughts and patterns and addictive elements to their personality, if you can point that at something empowering, building a business, whatever skill set it is that you're trying to get, if you can put that same obsession into it, then you really can do something pretty extraordinary. Now, narcissists are a fascinating breed because in the beginning, they're so alive and they so sparkle and they're so charismatic. They've spent so much time polishing their persona, polishing their presentation of who they are, that they really draw people to them. Now, what's interesting, they may enamor you for a period of time in the beginning. When they put their spotlight on you, you feel incredibly special. And then you realize they're doing it so that you'll come and worship. Yeah. Right? And that you'll come and pay them all that attention that they so crave. And then that really narcissistic, like sucking void of a human as they draw you in deeper is not fun.
Yeah.
And you begin to realize, oh, I'm alone in this relationship. And that really is a bummer, especially because when they capture your imagination in the beginning and you think, whoa, like this is so cool. Like this person is really intriguing. Like I'm really drawn in. And then you find them staring in the river at their own reflection. And it's like, oh.
Yeah.
There's been some disappointment in my life with that.
Is there a way to spot that? Let's say you're going to work for a new company or even in a manager. Is there a way to spot that?
If there is, I'm not yet good at it. My wife has certainly historically been better at identifying that in people before I do. So ask Lisa. Okay. That's my current strategy. And I don't know why the times that I've encountered that I didn't see it coming until I encountered it, was way deep in the relationship. Yeah. And I don't know, that says something about me, and I'm not entirely sure what I see, what I want to see. I'm not sure. That's worth unpacking.
Nice. Maybe on another episode of
After
Impact.
Yeah. So
cool. All right. I believe we're going to do a giveaway at some point, so I just want to mention that. I'm not sure what it is. I think we're giving away the book, Eric Barker's book, Barking Up the Wrong Tree, which seems very reasonable. Read. I haven't read it yet.
Really?
No.
Wow, you're really going to like it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. He's your kind of dude.
Signed copy.
Nice.
So, even better.
6-month Audible.
And an Audible subscription. Whoa, this is a big giveaway. All right, get excited, folks. It's 6 a.m. Pacific Coast time.
Yes.
Let's talk about Woop.
Yeah.
Wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. This is another one of those things where he just breaks it down so clearly. And this is the way you got into it in the episode was you asked him, how do people find their passions? It started with the conversation around there are certain things you should quit in life.
Yeah. Grit or quit.
Yeah. And he said, you can't just do everything. You have to quit some things in order to focus your energy on the things that matter. And how do you find the things that matter and the things that you should quit? And he gave this this thing called Woop, which is wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. And that is, what is your wish? What do you most desire? What is the outcome? What does that look like specifically? What are the obstacles in the way from you reaching it? And then what is the plan for you getting there? Which I thought was great. It's an awesome breakdown. I feel like you could just easily chart that out somewhere and have a plan at least, or a rudimentary one to get started on. How do you understand, though, the difference? This is what I was trying to figure out, the difference between wish and outcome.
Yeah, so to be fair, like I think these are a little closer than I would want them to be, but it goes like this. So wish is I want to be rich and famous. The outcome is I want to do it as a investment banker.
Okay.
And so what's the obstacle? I don't know anything about finance. So what's the plan? Oh, I'm going to have to go learn finance either in college or by reading a lot of books. So that's how they break it down. And then he's actually quoting somebody else's study, and I keep like attributing it to him, and I feel really bad for whoever actually came up with this because he introduced me to it. I guess he deserves some credit for that. And he talks about how you want to read your emotion on how you feel when you go through that process. So as you move from wish into outcome and get very specific about what it is that you want to do, and then into obstacle and think about, okay, what's really going to be hard about this? And then plan and really think about, how am I going to do that? How much time is it going to take? What am I going to have to do? What am I going to be immersed in? And if as you do that, you're like, oh God, then that's something that you should quit. If you're like, I can do this, like this is actually going to be a lot of fun, then that's something that you should have the grit and stick it out. And I actually really like that, because this is one of those where I never really wanted to talk about like sometimes you have to quit, but how do you decide? Like you just need to figure that out. Like I never had a good answer for that.
Yeah.
And so these feel like it's at least a path, right? And you'll get an emotional reaction, which guaranteed everybody, you're going to get an emotional reaction. So actually, I really like it, even though I may have a little beef with the letters. The concept is super strong.
Can you do a quick whoop on building impact theory?
Yeah. So what's the wish? I want to pull people out of the matrix. What's the outcome? I need to build a studio. What's the obstacle? That's going to be a very long process of getting incredibly good at creative, finding a way to maintain control of the IP, the rights to the IP, so that you can merchandise and monetize that. And what's the plan? We're going to start on social media. We're going to build out an audience, because the audience is going to be the thing that allows us to go to the studios with some power, because we can build something around a comic book, which is serialized, which allows multi-touch for the audience, for them to fall in love with the characters, engage in a world. Then when you go to sell to somebody that has distribution might, which we don't yet, but need that as a part of the long-term strategy of the building the studio. How do I maintain even 20 or 30% of the merchandising rights? You're going to have an army of people that are going to show up to that on day one, whether that's on Netflix, whether that's in the movie theaters. You need to sell them on that. I've got 500,000 people. They're rabid. They're raving about this. They will talk about it. Look how active they are. We do a 24-hour live. People show up. They're rocking with us. They got us to 100K in record time. Like you're showing that you've got this community who you've brought value to their life, and they really want to support you.
Sure.
So that's the Woop.
Loved it. Thank you.
Very welcome.
So speaking of building the next Disney, Eric Barker cites a study that in looking at happiness in people's lives, they found that relationships are the things that are most connected with meaning in life and happiness. And this really struck me because my theory is that, life can't be lived to its fullest without interacting with others and without having relationships. And so like human connection is really important to me, which is weird because I'm an introvert, but that's the only way I think you can truly find joy. So I want to ask you, how important are relationships to your happiness, you personally, and then how do you make them a priority when trying to build the next Disney?
I'm so interested by this question, and I'm not sure what's really put this on my mind lately. Maybe part of it is feeling like I'm living through one of the most beautiful times in my life, and that I have the wherewithal to recognize it while it's happening, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's something entirely different, but it's really been on my mind lately, friendships, and how many friendships I've sacrificed to get where I'm at, and that my life has collapsed down to my wife. And, both of us used to have vibrant friendships, and slowly but surely everything became about business. And then when you move your business and you spin something out and you start something, and all of a sudden, wow, it's literally just the two of you. And so there's no longer the like false pretense of, well, you share proximity to people that all gathered around the business because you were friends, but now it's really just the business. And so how do you and does it matter to reconnect and build those friendships when any time that I go spend time with friends is time away from my wife, which is always hard to justify spending that time away. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm intrigued. It's something I'm spending a lot of time thinking about now. And part of it, part of what put it on my radar is Christopher. He's got he's always like, oh, I'm going out with my friend. Oh, they just invited me to like a safari in Africa. Like, what? Like, there's always, oh yeah, I'm going to be in Germany at that point. Like, we're going duck hunting. It's like, what is happening? Like, he has all these like super diverse friends with all these different interests that seem to tap into like a different part of his life. And he's had these friends for decades. And so that is one thing that I'd be lying if I said that I mourned. I don't have any sense of loss over the friends that I've lost along the way. Maybe I'm just not wired like that. I'm enough in love with what I'm trying to build, or I'm excited by it, and certainly having my wife. I don't know, but it's really, really piqued my interest.
Okay.
So I'll have to get back to you with like what the final conclusion is, but I think there is something to it. And having my happiest times are when my family's around.
Okay.
And so that's also part of the intrigue.
Yeah, and I think it's also like how you're defining relationships in your life. I mean, some people are going to have wide friend networks, and then some people are just going to have one or two people, and that may be a significant other, it may be a sibling, it may be a parent that they're very, very close with, but they can still draw happiness from that. All right. Happiness, achievement, significance, legacy. These are 4 things that he talks about that I think these are like the 4 buckets that you have to put deposits in, he says, in order to find fulfillment in your life. How would you rank those in order of importance for you personally?
All right, give them to me again. Happiness,
achievement, significance, and legacy.
I don't think about legacy in the slightest. So you can literally, I put Zippo in that. I think when you die, you die. It is like a light switch going off. There is nothing left. I won't have any idea what my legacy is. So the only thing that I'm interested in is right now, am I excited by what I'm doing? Do I believe in it? Do I think that it's a reflection of the person that I want to be? So, and I think he actually defines legacy a little bit differently than I'm sort of alluding to here, which is what's going to outlive me. But that's such the traditional way to define it. I'll leave it as that. Happiness, significance, and achievement. So if I'm honest, I'm smart enough to know that at the end of the day, if you'll let me use the word fulfillment, that fulfillment is the top. It has to be. But I want achievement to be the top. And it is only through the School of Hard Knocks that I've realized to place fulfillment above the top is just the only thing that makes sense. But my every impulse is to pursue achievement, which to me is the expression of potential. I love that. I love that chase. I love trying. So the getting is far less important to me than the willingness to sincerely go all out to acquire that skill or that accomplishment or whatever. But yeah, so I'll say that fulfillment, and I know I'm changing the word and being a little cheeky, achievement, and then this is my fatigue. I just can't hold these 3 fucking things in my head. What is the third one?
Happiness.
No. I changed that. So what's the third one? So that was fulfillment is happiness.
Oh, I thought you were saying significance is happiness.
No. So then significance is after that. So fulfillment instead of happiness, and then achievement, and then significance.
Awesome. Love it. We have a giveaway question for the audience. And it's just an open one. Which shows do you regularly record? This is not a trivia question.
You're like, God, what is the answer?
Which shows do you regularly record on Facebook Live? I'm assuming that means
Watch
Watch?
previous lives after the fact? Could that be fatigue as well? We've been up
which
for a long
shows
time.
do you regularly watch on Facebook Live?
I like that.
This is just a market research question. It's not a trivia question.
Can you record on Facebook? Not really, right?
Oh, do we record? We record. Okay.
Which shows do we got
What
it,
are our
got it.
Facebook
This is a
Live
trivia question.
shows? It is a trivia question. I lied.
And you've had sleep, man.
I know. See? I need a lot of sleep, folks. Which ones do we regularly record on Facebook Live on a weekly basis?
There
Put it
you
in
go.
the comments, and you can win Eric Barker's signed book, which is somewhere around here.
Right over here. Boom.
Nice.
Get it. There it is.
Barking
That's
up
the
the
one.
wrong tree.
Great book.
And
Very good read.
Can we confirm, judges, a 6-month Audible subscription?
We can. It's right here.
Yes. That's big time
Boom.
right there. That's
Legit.
just knowledge.
Legit. Get
All right.
on it. All right. And I think we have a question. The red light went off.
Nope.
All vicious lie.
Just for the giveaway. How much more time do we have on After Impact?
8 minutes.
8 minutes.
Whoa, that happened really
Yeah, it
fast.
sure did.
Super surprised by that.
Intensifiers. That's an interesting concept as well. You guys start talking about strengths versus weaknesses. Should you double down on your strengths versus focusing on your weaknesses? And he says the research shows it's more about context. So taking those things that are your signature strengths that you're already good at and putting them in the right context. And then also the things that you're bad at, finding a good context for those things, which is a really fascinating idea to me. Again, in theory, it makes a lot of sense, but how do you find the proper context for your strengths? It's hard enough sometimes figuring out what your strengths are.
Yeah. Well, okay. So that's a whole separate question. So if you'll let me set that
Let's set
aside.
that
So let's say that you've identified your strengths. Part of this is saying, okay, what can I monetize in the universe of that I enjoy? So if I enjoy, so let's take drama from Young and Reckless.
Okay.
Loves the universe of skateboarding. And at first he's like, I'm going to go work at a skateboard shop. That's like a minimum wage job.
Right.
But another way to attack that universe of is clothing for skateboarders to wear. So now you get to be around those kinds of people. You can do marketing using skateboard imagery. So all the things, and he was really, he was a videographer for skateboarders, a skateboarder himself. So that like is just a world that makes sense to him. But those were literally two things that he seriously thought he was going to do. He was actually about to take a job in a skateboard shop in the Valley when his cousin asked him to be his personal assistant, his cousin being Rob Dyrdek.
Yeah.
And that lands him on Robin Big and then Fantasy Factory. And then during Fantasy Factory, he creates Young and Reckless. So that's like that universe of. There's a lot of different ways to say, okay, I have a strength in this. I like doing this. I like filming skateboarders. I'm good at it. I'm good at skating. I understand them. So what are the different ways that that can play out? So it's really, I really want people to think about that for a second, like how dramatically different they are, but they're both universe of that he wanted to be in. So really think about what are the different ways that I can monetize. So for example, every time I encounter imagery, just imagery from movies, comic books, whatever, when I go to a Comic-Con, I just want to be there. I want to be around people like that. I want to be around the imagery, the drawings, the like cool, like powerful shit. Like I just want to be around it. And so universe of, like, what's a way that I can engage with that? And that's why when I saw the opportunity for the mission to line up. So one thing for people, I need people to understand, like when I was at Quest, I was fully engaged in the mission, right? And I was thinking, okay, this is awesome. Like we're going to be able to really help people better their bodies, better their minds, end metabolic disease as a function of helping get their mind in the right place. And I was so passionate about manufacturing because we were touching so many lives. We were creating so many jobs in the inner cities and really creating opportunity for a lot of those people that had really touched my life and made me want to, pull people out of the matrix. And so it wasn't, for me internally, it didn't feel like the big switch that from the outside it looked like, right? Because I start calling it something different. And it was also returning to filmmaking. So it was seeing that those things could align. My desire to really help people in a meaningful way mentally. And now you're going to see that impact theory is going to really start making a play back into the world of health. So I think it's just so all inextricably tied. So when you find something that you really love matches up with something that you can monetize, that's really the juice. And and then on top of that, you really want to talk about putting your strengths to use. I saw that what was happening with social media allowed me to use my verbal skills. And so that's the oldest skill set that I've been developing is verbal.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think that that's an important distinction. It's like, not only does it need to be the right context, but it needs to be a context that you're passionate about, that actually makes you happy. So you're not thrusting yourself into a situation where, yeah, this is good for my strengths. This is intensifying what I'm already good or bad at, and it's the right context for it, but I'm not happy.
Right.
That would be horrible.
And is all too often what people do, because they take the first thing that pays the rent, which there's so much heartbreak in that for me.
Definitely. I just want to open it up to the Facebook Live audience. If you have any questions, I believe I have a couple more in here.
And I will say, while you're looking for that, if this feed is adding value to your life, please do share it. That's how you guys have helped us get to the 100K in record time. It would mean a lot if you went to that Facebook share button right now, clicked it out, sent it out, especially if you let people know that we're doing a 24-hour live. We have been doing this since 9 a.m. nonstop yesterday. So this is our way of giving back, of being of service, of showing you guys how much you mean to us, not just in words, but in actual actions, and being here and rocking it out with you guys for 24 hours. All right, we only have 2 minutes left. So
2 minutes left. I do have one more question, but I also wanted to read a couple of comments from YouTube because people are really responding to this episode.
Nice.
I think it's going to blow up. This one's from Roberto. He says, "I'm not even finished with the video yet, and I already know this has changed my life. I can't wait to share this clip and its content with others. Hashtag trajectory." Like
nice.
That. This one is from Vicus. Ordered the book after watching 5 minutes.
Nice.
Great. Cam R says, "Without a doubt makes the top 3 impact theory interviews. Eric is authentic, genuine, intelligent, and inspiring. The concepts about happiness leading more often to success than vice versa, and how many so-called mysteries are actually puzzles are powerful truths. You're always setting the bar higher and higher." That's actually something that I wanted to ask about. I loved his quote about a lot of the things we think are big mysteries in life are actually puzzles that have answers. That whole reframing was awesome.
Yeah.
And just with seeing how you're diving into health and nutrition with the microbiome, and it's like, that is a big mystery that you could easily just go, I don't know. No one will ever figure it out, or it'll take centuries until they figure it out. But you're like, no, this is a problem that you can actually solve. So what's the mindset there? How do you get yourself to start thinking that way?
It's really interesting. And so I'm going to give credit to Jim Abrams, the guy that directed Airplane, the movie. And he taught me this thing called Mrs. Zabotsky's Law. And he was watching his neighbor's house caught on fire, and it was burning. The fire department showed up, and they couldn't get the water on the part where it was actually burning. So the house was just like, it was getting worse and worse. And Mrs. Zabotsky comes outside, and she's like, "Guys, if you just go over and stand on the porch, you'll be able to hit it." And they were like, "Oh, Jesus, you're right." And they went over, stood on the porch, and they put the fire out. And he said, in that moment, he realized, don't ever assume that you can't do somebody's job better than they can. And I thought, that is so powerful. And I had taken Lisa to every doctor on the planet thinking they know better. And they've spent so many years studying this and so many years practicing this. Like, if they don't understand it, it's such a big world. And I was like, wait a second. Don't ever assume that you can't do somebody's job better than they can. And I was so disappointed in myself because I had promised her I was going to fix this problem. And I was trying all the easy solutions. I was trying going to the doctors. I was trying to get other people that were supposedly experts.
Right. All the rational solutions.
Sure.
All the ones you'd go to first. Yeah.
But they weren't working.
Yeah.
And I was failing her. And when you don't make excuses, at some point you just have to own, I'm not doing enough. And the answer is always more. Yeah. How do you get healthier? Do more. How do you get more muscles? Do more. How do you get leaner? Do more. How do you solve this problem? Do more. It's always more. And when you're willing to push that and do it, like, I think people imagine like I'm just sitting like miserable somewhere, like forcing myself to do a bunch of shit I don't want to do. I fucking love this. I love researching it and learning it. And it's about getting that frame of like, I'm going to solve my wife's problem. I'm going to be her hero. I'm going to do incredible. I'm going to know more about this than doctors. Like, you can get really amped up about that stuff. And so I actually have a hard time stopping myself reading, because in the morning I get so caught up in these fucking books and how much I'm learning and how intriguing it is. So the key is to find a way to leverage something that you love doing in order to get yourself over the hump, the boredom, and all of that to push through.
Awesome. Love it. I think
All
it's
right,
time
we got
to
a lot
wrap,
of
huh?
flashing. That red light is
Flashing.
flashing. So,
We have a winner.
winner, winner.
You want to announce it?
Sure. Melissa LaCour. Melissa LaCour. Congratulations. Well done. Getting some knowledge dropped on you.
So much knowledge. 6 months of Audible. That's awesome. Cool.
That is amazing. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us for this very special episode during our 24-hour live of After Impact with Eric Barker. It was amazing. A big shout out to our boy, Agent Smith here, for rolling up with some fresh energy and just making magic happen. This was awesome. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care.